Yeah. Inside voice. I hear these youngins by the slang that I bid first, and I can't even get no credit for it. That shit hurt. Yeah, we been nerds, not the type to use big words. Still down to throw you if you throwin' the fist first. Fail face, but every now and then I don't get curved. Still in the broken hearted, that we get what we deserve. Freak show, they staring and don't ask for no pictures. Cause I'm a giant man like I'm Fishburne. Maybe cause I'm hotter than the grease with a fish burn. We're slacking that one, putting in that work like an intern. I probably won't gain lives. Like trading in your system, the game stop. Don't really rap about what I ain't got. Been me since back when I could fit in the tank top. You think I'm ever changing? I think not. Hit the taco truck and I can show you the flame spots. They only taking cash and now I'm making the bank stop. Think cock, don't say a word, just open that safe lock. Now I'm playing the ATM, broken the rank wide. Raindrops falling on my head. I hate cops, ain't talking to the feds. Zombie mode on a rocky road, walking like I'm dead. Need a pick me up that I will leave the chocolate with the bread. Still trash, just now me in my pockets getting fed. That's real rap, now I can pay for guac without a sweat. You feel that? Playlist full of Indian drill trap. Problems, I got 99 on me, I'm Lil Sap. But fucking never cried over spilled paps. Never crying over who spilled that. Young medicine man, and I'm looking to peel caps. Yeah. Put on the beat and I will snap. Put on the beat, I'ma kill that.
Hey, hello, howdy. We back up in here, Ryne Radio, episode 12 already. Only 2 weeks already on episode 12, just because we going live every single day like a lunatic. How we doing, folks? We had a really tough night last night, just like as a people. I hope as we wake up in the morning now, we can probably reflect on some things and you know, I just hope I hope all this goes the way that it should, I guess, this time around. You know, we've seen a lot of instances like this, and they usually don't go the way that people want them. And I hope that's not going to be the case this time, because last night was definitely a precursor, I think, to just everybody being really fed up with everything going on, and we're back. So yeah, we got a good one today though. We're gonna have a little fun. I just been hanging out. You know, I pretty much just woke up and get ready for this because I got Bay Area comedian on the show today. His name is Mean Dave. And I'm gonna try to actually like use this opportunity to learn about him as much as like I'm gonna show like as much as you guys are gonna about to learn about him, to be honest, because this is a guy that I see on basically every single comedy flyer. I know he books a lot of shows. I mean, he was very much doing the grind. And I mean, I don't really know what else he be doing, but as far as I was seeing, I thought like he pretty much was just doing the thing as a comedian, you know. So we were going to talk to him just to kind of see, you know, how he's doing throughout this whole fucking Black Mirror episode that we've been in. Yeah, man. Outside of that, Keegan was gonna be on later today, but just kind of with everything going on, I kind of told him, I'm like, hey man, like they're kind of just shutting down, like they kind of shut down most of the freeways yesterday. So he's like, yeah, you know what? Let's just see about next week, because he'd rather be here in person. He didn't want to do a video call. So we're going to have Keegan. We're rescheduling Keegan on the next week. But like I said, we still got Mean Day today. We're going to get into this. I'm about to call him right now on the FaceTime. Make sure I do this right. Make sure you guys can't see him and whatnot. Hey, howdy, sir.
What's up, Ryne?
What's going on, Mean Dave? Or Dave. So yeah, man. Yeah, fucking. Thank you first of all for fucking popping up on here because you're somebody that kind of always grabbed my interest as far as like when I be hitting the mics and whatnot. I see that you're kind of everywhere doing everything. Like you actually booked me on the show, but we never really actually like hung out and like talk or nothing. So this is a cool opportunity for me to like kind of learn more about you as well as like the people watching right now on the show. So shit, man, let's just kind of get right into it. Like you're pretty much just like a comedian though, right? Like. I mean,
kind of.
Yeah, because
I like to say I'm a professional aspiring comedian.
Yeah, because I like I said, I see you on so many shows, and you're one of the few people that I actually see going elsewhere too. Like I'll see some people be on a lot of local shows, but they kind of not are really able to branch out like that. Whereas like anytime I see you just like on your profile, like you kind of anytime like you've seen like you go to a different state or something, you always make sure you get a mic in or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, like, let's just get into like where's this all start for you as far as like getting into comedy and like the motivation to.
Failure, like a lot of things. No, I mean, I wouldn't say failure, but I that's what other people would call it. But, like you, I was in music for a long time. I played in various punk and metal bands for about 20 years. More experimental, I would say, than anything else. But and then the last band I had kind of a comedic thread through it. Like it was, we started it in 2007, and I've always been heavily influenced by stand-up comedy, but not really like it was. I mean, it was something that I thoroughly enjoyed as an audience member. I had no desire to do it because I mean, it was cool because it wasn't cool. That's what I loved about stand-up comedy. And I was never into like hotshot comics. I never really got into Eddie Murphy or others, but I was really into like cerebral sarcasm, like Bill Cosby at the time, and Dennis Miller and Bobcat Goldthwait. And
Bobcat.
And when I got older, I saw I would say like stand up and wrestling were like two things I kind of lost interest in at the same time, and then when what really kind of snapped me back into stand up was Dave Chappelle's Killing Him Softly. I think a lot of people kind of had the same response, like that special on HBO. It was the first time since I was a kid where I memorized the special unintentionally.
Yeah,
watched it so many times, and I just watched it again recently, and I'm like, it's amazing just how much that hour stands up, just on the basis of its jokes and his performance. But so I ended up, and obviously like everybody, like anybody else who was into Chappelle, I got into Chappelle's show, like anything else, and I started following Bill Burr around 2004. I wouldn't say follow, actually. No, I saw him live in 2004. He was performing with Paul Mooney, or no, I'm sorry, not Paul Mooney, Charlie Murphy and Donnell Rawlings in the hiatus, like right after the hiatus of the Chappelle show. They did a tour and they were performing at the Punchline for $25. That, like, when you look back on it, that was a fucking bargain.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we got to see all three of those guys that night, and it was an excellent show. Charlie Murphy was just starting to do stand-up, and he was mainly telling stories, but he was still hilarious. And so then I started kind of keeping track loosely of Bill Burr because he was the standout. Like, we didn't know who he was. We were like, oh, that's the guy from the race draft sketch, and from
that's right.
Yeah, he's all over that thing. He's in the Sam Jackson beer commercial. He's he plays a cop in a sketch, and he's in the Dice game, the ESPN Dice game. And
yeah, that's crazy. I just forgot.
Yeah,
but like when I look back, I can remember his face being
He's mostly in season 2, but I think he even popped up in season 1 here and there. And he was one of the comics that Chappelle loved at the time, and you see why now. And so then I like around 2007 or 2000, I think it was 2007. I was working, and we were like, I was curious. I'm like, what's been going on with that guy Bill Burr? I kind of forgot about him, and then I looked him up, and that was just as he was starting his podcast.
Oh, shit.
And so I started following the podcast. and he was starting to do his special. I think Why Do I Do This? I think was just about to drop, and then so I started seeing him live at Punchline. He would mostly do like Monday nights, where like, which is when he was like working on whatever hour. He would do 2 shows on a Monday, and they didn't sell out at first, but they would be full, and then after like not long after that, they would always sell out. And but I would get to see him quite a number of times, and then around that same time, I developed a band. I read a book. I read this book actually. I got it right here. Actually, I read this book, the Rickles book.
Oh shit!
Highly recommend it. It's just a good read if you're a fan of Rickles or comedy. And when I read that book, I got it from my dad, and he lent it to me, and then that's my own copy I got later. But I've always liked Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, and that's like one of my favorite comedy characters of all time. Robert Smigel's a really brilliant man, and that's his homage to Rickles. So then after I read that book, I was starting a new band, and I remember thinking like like it would be a cool idea to have a band that's kind of like Don Rickles in the form of a band, like not exactly. Like have an insult comic rock band that's kind of like making fun of music audiences and whatnot. And it wasn't exactly like insult style, but it was definitely mocking because at that point I had reached a point of music being in it for so long that I was more critical of the music audiences than I was the music itself.
Right.
So it was a great vehicle to like express a lot of resentment and angst I had at music and do it in a healthy way, I felt. But while the whole time I was nursing the drug and alcohol addiction, but we started that band, and it had a conscious thread of stand-up comedy. Like I told my drummer, my only instruction to my drummer, who's a longtime friend and a funny dude himself, was think Max Weinberg or the Max Weinberg 7 on Conan O'Brien. You don't have to say anything unless you feel like you know what you want to say, but your silence will speak volumes. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but you're my straight man to my bullshit, and I'm the guy who talks a lot. And it worked. It totally worked. So that was the cool thing, and I got more and more into the banter bullshit in between songs, and then when the band hit a lull, I was like, well, let me try and maybe I should try stand-up comedy to maybe help promote the band. That was my idea. It's as much as I thought it through.
Yeah.
And that was not an idea that I'll just say, because what I totally underestimated was the fact that stand-up is a whole other medium. It's learning a completely different instrument. And I had learned a new instrument in like at that point, 10 years at least. And so once I realized just how difficult it was, because then what I realized looking back on it is I was a prop comic with my band, and the band was my prop. You take away my prop, I ain't got shit. So now I'm this mean Dave guy on stage in front of comedy audiences, and they're all looking at me like, okay, make me laugh, funny man.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking all I got to do is my stupid asshole banter that I did, do like that. But they have no context for it. When you have a band and the context works, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you take that away, now I'm just an asshole with a beer in my hand and talking shit to audiences that are just like, we don't find this very funny at all. You're just being an asshole. And comics sometimes thought it was, or the people at the open mics, the comics at open mics, but real comics, or I wouldn't say real, but like the ones that were real serious, they always would frown upon what I was doing, and with good, I can totally understand why, and but then so it took me a while, and then I was like, somebody was like, what the thing that pissed me off, the thing that kept me going was resentment again. Because I was watching the good comics, and I was like, these guys are all garbage. And I'm like, there is nobody funny in this group. And I watch who they pay attention to and who starts getting elevated in whatever. And my first open mic was at Brainwash Cafe. Tony Sparks.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
And Tony was not a friend of mine for the first year. Like Tony did not like me for a good while, and it's not me personally. It was just, and we always laugh about this now because he firsthand saw my progress at that mic and at other places because he was going through a rough patch too. It was 2010 was not a good year for local stand-up comedy, and so it took me a while to sort of like kind of realize that I had to do the things that I hated, which was write. I had to actually write I hated the whole, when I would watch these guys do the same set that I would see them do somewhere else. I hated that. I hated this preconceived notion feeling when I'm just like, I can tell you wrote that out. Like I can see right through all of this horseshit. It's bad acting. And the thing that I took for granted was like, that's part of the process. It is part of the process. And I had to go through all of those excruciating things myself. And I had to at least try these methods that I didn't necessarily like. And now it's funny because now I'm a combination of both what I wanted to be and everything that I hated. I'm both. Now I look back on it and I'm like, wow, I am more of a fucking parrot than I ever planned on being. And I used to hate that shit, but I totally get it now. And, and that's why I look at like other comics who can improvise a lot more in tune with an audience. Pete Munoz is one of those guys.
Oh,
Mark
for
Smalls. Sure. There's others. Chelsea Bierce is a good friend of mine. She likes to do a lot of riffing and stuff, and that's something that I really admire. In that I like riffing more than I like crowd work. Then it's like I like being able. So nothing, and that's how I write a lot of my bits. Was I had to get into this process of where I can comfortably talk about an idea on stage and riff it, but then develop a song out of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because I feel like some people, they say that they do, crowd work or whatever, but really a lot of it is just like fucking roasting the crowd like endlessly, and then like really like
shit.
Yeah, like not really bringing it around to nothing. It's just like, oh hey, what's up, you fuck face and you shithead and whatever the fuck.
Defensive bullying. And there's some people that can be good at it or appear good at it. The thing that I just because that was one of the things, Bill Burr being one of the guys that really I was watching a lot. I watched him be one of those guys where he's brilliant when it comes to dealing with shitty audiences. I mean, he's a master at it. But then he talked about it on Why Do I Do This? There's an extra feature where he talks about what blew him up was that video on YouTube of him in Philadelphia where he's talking shit to Philadelphia at an Opie and Anthony show, and it went viral. And the thing was, he says then it's like people want him to they want him to be that guy to just roast the audience and all that shit. And he goes, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's and that's something that it's very smart because it's totally lent him, because he is the angry white guy that's the epitome of that, and you see how much it inspires bad imitations.
Yeah.
But part of what he reins it in with is a strong sense of humility and intelligence that he even dismisses himself, and so when it came to his long-term development, yeah, he couldn't keep being that guy. And I watch a lot of people try to they think that's what they have to be is always. It's a good mix to that's a great tool to have, but you don't want to just rely on that, I feel.
Yeah, because this is very much comedy is very much I hate this is corny to say, but it's like a mixed martial arts of kind of the verbal language. Totally. As far as there's so wide range of a spectrum as far as what you can really pull out. Because a lot of it's just the timing, and sometimes people just kind of will kind of get a laugh out of a shock. But I've always respected people the most that can utilize those tools, but then they use it in a way to still provide a point or say something poignant about a certain subject or topic that they feel about.
And that's, you came from music, right?
I mean, more or less. I did a lot of battle rap.
Coming from music, that's some of that.
Yeah,
that comes into play, because I'll tell you something. Not a lot of people have that level of insight into even people that have been doing this a while.
Yeah, no, I've kind of I talk about it all the time with my battle rap friends. I tell all of them Cause like a lot of us get jaded off, like kind of what you're saying about the music. Like you kind of just get angry at the crowd at a certain point, and it kind of loses your love for it to a certain degree. So I tell these like battle rappers, like, just start doing comedy, because there is some similarities as far as like, because like how you're saying, there's a lot of us that like just write and premeditate a lot of our shit, and then there's more people that can riff, but like I don't know, it's like, because like freestyling is a very unique trait, so like not a lot of people can really pull it off. Hey, thanks, fucking. I just got a donation from the homie Andrew Boyer. Thank you, sir.
Hell yeah, man.
Bless. Fucking. So yeah, so like, I mean, like the freestyling, like entire rounds is pretty frowned upon now, but like I used to like be where it came from, but like there's still a lot of people that could utilize the improv skills. So I tell like all these guys, like, you guys are all comedians and you just don't know it yet, like, because
almost that you shouldn't tell them, because it's almost like telling a pitcher to no hitter.
Yeah, no, right.
Because it's like they're funnier. I've always insisted that people are funnier when they're not trying to be funny. And someone even, or I think I've had this question asked. They're like, "Are you funnier now?" Like, people have known me for a long time. They're like, "Are you funnier now doing comedy all the time?" I'm like, no, I'm less funny. Like, I never thought I was a funny person. I just knew that I could make people laugh just being myself.
Yeah.
But I wasn't trying to. I was trying to more when I was a child. Because nothing in class, I would love it if like I had an idea that came to my head and I would say it and I got a huge laugh. And that was like the earliest, one of those. If anything, there was a sign that maybe I should have been doing this a while, sooner.
Yeah,
it was that. But I didn't, I wasn't that self-conscious enough to like realize that I got into that, and maybe I just wasn't that seeking of validation. There was part of me too that was kind of like wanted to reject anything before I tried to be a part of it or something,
No, for sure. I mean, like a lot of it's kind of like a horse, like leading a horse to water kind of a thing, It's like ultimately like the person themselves kind of have to realize like, oh, I can do this, or like, oh, like, because like even me, I started doing comedy just kind of like I like a battle, like a Dirtbag Dan, like I know him, and then like he started doing comedy. I seen him doing open mics, and I seen, it's kind of mean to say, but like I seen how terrible everyone else is like at open mics.
Nothing mean to say.
So I was like, true. I kind of get inspired by it. Like if I have to go up early and I don't see someone like shit the bed first, I'm almost like, oh no, like I don't want to.
You got to be that one.
Yeah, but I'll be like, if I can watch someone shit the bed, I'm like, oh no, let me show you how to sling this dick out here, dog. Yeah. But it's a little different, but but like even there's just like little things I think back to, as far as like I'd be like a little kid watching like a comedy special over the weekend, and then on the bus the next morning like trying to recite it word for word.
Remember the jokes, yeah.
And then I started like understanding even at a young age, like as long like it's all about like the way it is worded, and it's like if you mess up the wording, you're not gonna get the laugh right. And it's weird to like have known that and done that at a young age, and then just completely forget about it. And then like now I'm actually like trying to pursue this again. I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is making kids laugh on the bus in the morning, like pretty much, but just doing it with myself. Yeah, just doing it myself and like trying to convey my own character rather than just imitating someone else. So
one of the things that I'm sure that helped me from coming from music was the fact that there is a music to a strong joke. There is like there's rhythm and lyricism to it, and even to like once you start getting that kind of thing. Tony Sparks gave me one of my favorite notes that I agree with, but also I like to break the rule too, that he told me. After he started seeing me, we did this one show and this was one of my early headlining shows, where I was following both Rudy Ortiz doing a guest set that was basically a headlining set in the middle of a show. And then after him was this guy. There's another Dirty Dan. There's a Dirty Dan P who lives up in the North Bay. He doesn't really do comedy that much anymore. He like dabbles. He comes back
so many Dans be dirty. I don't know what it is.
No shit. I know. That's thankfully they're not all mean Daves. But it was his show, and he was like doing a co-headlining thing with me. And so he had the large amount of audience, and he had a good set like to that audience. Like his set went well. By the time I went up, the audience is pretty exhausted, and like some were starting to leave and whatever, but I still had a pretty good set, following both a crushing set and then a good set by a
Yeah.
guy who everybody came to see. And now I'm there, like, just, cleaning up the whatever is left over. And Tony afterwards, he said, he goes here, wanted to tell you something. So whatever your strongest joke is, take the joke in your act that works the most, whatever that like the best joke that works almost like 100% of the time. You take that joke and the rhythm of that joke, like the just the cadence and the rhythm and all that, make your entire act the rhythm of that joke. And he has a very valid point. The trouble is the joke that I had was like, I'm like, there's no way you can, it has a real high energy delivery. It's got a little setup and a real high energy delivery. So then I ended up like kind of like realizing, like, because I told him, I said, you're right, because I knew what he was talking about. But then at the same time, I was like, the thing is too, is I know that I like to experiment with other timings and whatever. So and it makes those moments feel a lot better, because a lot of what I feel like the comedy world doesn't benefit from is some perspective in the other arts sometimes, in that. And I think with music, you understand, not all songs have to be fast. They can be slow, they can be mid-tempo. You can make short songs, you can make long songs, you can experiment, and you can make noise. You can just, you can do a lot. You're not bound by any one thing. And I feel like the same can be done with, stand up or other mediums of comedy.
Oh, for sure.
So, but the trouble is, it's not. It's. And I still insist. And there's good comics that say the same thing. I don't believe that stand-up is necessarily an art form in and of itself. I feel there's an art to good stand-up comedy. But if you're not making audiences laugh somewhere, whether it's some meta joke or it's the audience there or whatever, if you're not making them laugh, nobody pays any serious mind to it. And we don't live in this. It's funny because, like, one of the things when I learn about Andy Kaufman, I'm like, the way that people are today, like, there's been such a de-evolution in the intelligence of audiences of stand-up, that if Andy Kaufman were to try to do what he did today, nobody would give a fuck. And so you'd be like, well, he ain't funny. He's just wrestling women, and what is he, lip syncing to the Mighty Mouse theme song? Like, and it was, and it definitely was something that is both of its time and ahead of its time, because I watched some of the shit he does, and it's like, it's incredible that he had access to resources of, like, he had a TV show on like one of the main networks, and it was ridiculous. Like, it's on YouTube. You can watch it and be like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, this guy's insane. And
kind of like predates Trolls in a way, but in a fun way.
Oh, totally. And in that regard, he was ahead of the time. But how you convince, like, executives when these are the same people these are some of the same people that wouldn't put some of the most intelligent shit on TV, or would give, it's like when I think of, like, Rod Serling, who wrote, like, some amazing Twilight Zone episodes and all the bullshit he had to go through. And then at the same time, then you see this guy who's just like, hey, everybody, and he's just got some wide eyes, and all of a sudden, oh, he's brilliant. He's fucking brilliant. Let's put him on TV immediately. And so it's cracks me up just the way, it's just a stupid business in general. But,
yeah, no, that's why but I think there's a huge power to what you're saying, as far as, like, I think more comics, maybe not like they have to, like, be involved in other things, but it definitely, like, if they really want to bone up, like, on, like, just kind of like a way to get more introspective in like what it is, like, you're doing, like, it would kind of pan out to, like, either, like, take up some music or try to, like, just try to do something creatively that kind of really, like, because it's like there's a lot of power to what you're saying, as far as what, I forget his name already because I got a terrible memory, but what he told you as far as whatever Tony Sparks, whatever your best joke is, like, match the rhythm for the entire set. And I understand a lot of that just from battle rap, because I'm gonna kind of give my audience a little game here too. Like, my style in general, I always found, like, not even my style, like, it's kind of an unwritten rule. Like, if you have a good punchline, you want to have every, like say the punchline is about 4 syllables long, All your lines leading up to that crazy punchline, you want the syllables to match perfectly, because when you hit that last punchline, it's gonna just fucking like it's like hitting it out of the park. Whereas like just
then everybody goes, oh
yeah, because you can almost do your own great idea disservice if you don't put it up properly. You know. So I can understand what he means by that, but I do like to have like comedy is like, it's weird because I'll take way more risk in comedy than I ever would have as like a battle rapper, because I like digging holes and seeing if I can climb myself out of them, and like more often than not I can't, but it's still like fun to try. Like I like, all right, whatever, my first 2 jokes are gonna be suicide jokes, and then we're gonna see where we're gonna go from there. We're gonna see how these people are feeling.
That's when you have nothing to lose, and then when you, as time, if you do develop a stronger reputation in comedy, and as you go on, it gets harder and harder to take those chances. That's what's really, that's what's and because if you do have like, you know, it's funny because before I go on further, one of the things that like it's really just boils down to keeping an open mind, and what I found is that when you have the mind of the aspiring comedian is so desperate and tunnel vision. It's I mean, some of the places that we would perform at would be at mixed open mics. So you've got music, you've got poetry, and one of the things that would kill me, especially when I was at Good Ones, there'd be some good mixed open mics in Oakland where we would there was one. It was predominantly comedy, but it was at a place called Dorsey's Locker, and they would welcome poets, not so much musicians, but I mean it would be poets too. And it was a mostly older black crowd there, and very Oakland, like old school Oakland.
Yeah.
And the poets there were incredible. And I mean, I would dare say the poets there were better than the level of in quality of comedy most of the time. And then I got invited to some other mixed open mics because of them, some people seeing me there. And there was this one other spot that we did one at where the poets were amazing. I'm still friends with them on Facebook, some of them. And they loved the stand up I was doing at the time, which was really a big thrill to entertain what I felt was like a really both street-wise and intelligent art-minded crowd of black folks, and with some jokes that were really talking about at the time were stuff that's kind of definitely related to the bullshit that's going on right now.
Right.
And what was funny was a lot of comics would not go to those. They would go to Dorsey's because they thought that was primarily for comedy. But when the poets would go on, all of them would tune out. And the thing about it, I would keep telling them, it's like, or if I was at a mixed mic that was great and they wanted more comedy, I'm like, trust me, you don't want these comedians, because they don't come here. They come here, all their mind is doing their bullshit set to feed whatever ego they got or whatever. But you have a community here, and like I enjoy, like when I'm done with my set, I like to sit and watch the other performers. Some of those poets are funnier than some comedians. There's a guy, Jay Rich, who was always there, who's a Oakland comic that's pretty known out there, and he came from poetry, and when you hear him do his poetry and his comedy, you see this, just like here was this hilarious guy who was doing poetry, but his poetry was pretty hard hitting as well, and so he transitioned into comedy because he also would crack everybody up, and he's got a real gift for it, and but I just would always notice that so many times, it's kind of like the old joke also that we're not, we don't like improv. I'm not a fan of improv, but I don't shit on improv, and I get why they do it. It's like band stand-up comedy. It's like you got a band of people now that are trying to work through ideas and all.
It's like Grateful Dead comedy.
Yeah, it's like jam it out.
Yeah,
and so, but it just wasn't something that I was that interested in after I got into this, because I'm like, I like being the sole proprietor of whether or not something's going to work or not, and that way also I get all the credit if it does.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah. So, but when it comes to like, once you start getting better, if you start getting better and you get booked, and next thing you know, you're like, kind of, so you might be passed at a club or two or something like that, then it becomes this whole thing of now, it becomes harder and harder to like write material that matches the level of whatever it is that you're doing that got you there. And then and on top of that, like it's funny to watch what is accepted and what isn't in terms of these taking risks, because the subject matters can it's like you do need to be mindful. I've learned this so many times because I've written good jokes around some touchy subjects that I can't do as often today, just because audiences truly are getting incredibly self-centered, so self-centered and dull, and I don't say they're sensitive. They're not sensitive, because if they were sensitive, they would realize what I'm saying. Sensitivity requires intelligence. When
Yeah.
people knee-jerk react to like a buzzword or a buzz
Mm-hmm.
subject, okay, oh, it's a non-black guy talking about, black people, or it's a black guy talking about white people, or just whatever the fuck,
Oh
that
yeah.
that doesn't fit. That's not, or something natural. We don't really see too many people calling out black folks for talking shit about white people, because right now it's the only racial justice we got going on in comedy. But like
For sure.
someone like me, where it's like people can't tell what I am necessarily. Black folks will right away write me off as white when they hear my voice. Um, and because I don't really talk too much about my ethnic background or anything else like that, because I've done some jokes that'll involve, this joke. One joke I wrote was about the advertisements at BART, that would say suicide is not the answer, and I got this huge bit about how, I mean, because when I saw those billboards, I was pissed. I was like, this is some fucking bullshit. Like these billboards are not trying to save lives. This is Bart's way of saying, like, hey, if you want to kill yourself, do us a favor, don't kill yourself here. Like,
Yeah.
that's really it.
Yeah.
It's not really about saving lives. It's about making sure people get to work on time. And that's what I would respect a billboard if it was more that level of honesty. But when I saw it, I just thought it was so condescending. And so when I was I wrote this long bit that came from a rant that was very touch and go. In the start, I almost ditched it, but a friend of mine was like, no, there's something there. You just keep messing with it. And he's right. But the trouble is, even at its best, it still runs the risk of pissing someone off.
Oh yeah.
Because they hear something, they just hear something, and because people are so entitled today, they'll just assume the worst. It's like you can hear a room full of laughter validating the whole bit, and they will still be like, that is wrong.
Oh yeah.
Wrong. And it's like, yeah, sometimes comedy I don't think it's wrong, but sometimes comedy needs to be wrong too. Like that.
Oh, for
being
sure.
Wrong, being wrong doesn't necessarily mean it's not funny. And it's a strange thing. And then another bit which was more problematic was my one about comics that used to bring up the subject of race, just exploiting race for comedy's sake, and it came from a discussion in a car, and it started. I'll just say the opening line, because it says, I don't like bringing up racism on stage because I just feel like I'm beating a dead Rodney King. And that's
shit.
a pretty harsh one. Yeah, it's not. This was a discussion.
Oh
with
shit.
And they were the ones who laughed at that, and they were like, "You got to say that on stage, Dave." I'm like, "Really?
Man.
You really want me? You just want to see me get killed? Like you just want?" And the thing was, I ended up writing that. I did write a bit on that, but it was inspired by watching certain comics that really were just rehashing territory that Richard Pryor and Chappelle have done way better, with no new insight, no new thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was telling me that something's wrong here. And that's, I don't like low hanging. It's not that I don't like, comedy's hack in many respects, but I don't like seeing lazy tropes be run through over and over again, because I think that's part of what leads to the frustrations that we have today. It's we're not having a real dialogue. We're not having a lot of discourse. I think people just really want to make things about themselves, and it sucks, because it's like there is a lot of, if you look at, there is a lot of progress. There's more progress than people want to pay attention to, but it's because we all want people to notice us. We all want to be the first one to share the article that says something and put ourselves on the pedestal, and we all want to be the messiah of wisdom, or the edgelord of some bullshit. And you're not.
Yeah, no.
Don't race to be that guy.
Everybody want to be a chief.
Yeah, it's okay. Most comedy. I remember what somebody said this a while ago, and I totally agree. I feel like the majority of people wanting to do comedy or arts in general are more fans that just don't know how that it's okay to just be a fan. And it's like I love watching. I mean, I don't love it as much as I used to, but I love watching hockey. I played some rollerblade hockey a couple times. I didn't want to do it again, but I would still love to watch a game. I don't want I don't want to get anywhere near that fucking ice, man. And even if I was good at it, I don't even know if I'd want to do it because it is a dangerous fucking game, man. They get
Right.
pucks, whatever. You got to fight. I hate fighting, and but I love watching it. I love watching it, and that's just me. Wrestling, pro wrestling. That's
Oh yeah.
one of the were we watching Japanese wrestling?
Oh yeah, no, I be watching Japanese wrestling on this channel all the time for sure.
Is that what we were gonna do when you invited me?
Oh
over?
yeah. If you were gonna come here, I was probably gonna like watch a match just because I know you're a wrestling fan and like shoot the shit about comedy.
The thing about it is I haven't watched it in so long. Not so long, but I'm like I see you got a Hood Slam shirt. I know.
Oh yeah.
I mean I knew some.
I had Anthony Trevino, the cat that runs Ugwa, on this show.
Runs what?
Anthony Trevino. He runs Ugwa Underground Wrestling Alliance out of San Jose.
Okay.
They do a lot of deathmatch shit, and they go for it.
Wow. No, those are, and I haven't heard of, because that's why I'm not that. I live literally down the street from where Big Time Wrestling.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
In Newark, and so I knew like Jason Styles. I know him mainly. All of the reason I know them is through my friend Mike Sills, who was Shooter Mike Silva from like 2005 to 2010. He wrestled for them, and he's one of my oldest friends growing up. And like he was one of the wrestlers that helped, along with Jason, help train Bailey, who
Oh yeah, because she's from out this way.
She's from Newark, and she trained at Big Time Wrestling, and so yeah, so it's it's kind of a weird thing. So I got to see some of my favorite wrestlers in their worst days over here, like when they're doing the autograph signings. I got to talk to a couple of them too. I met Roddy Piper before he, like I think a couple years before he passed. He was super cool. Like Roddy Piper and him and Rob Van Dam were really cool when I talked to them. And I know Rob Van Dam tried to get into comedy and he wasn't doing so well. But the thing about it, those are actually funny guys, and this kind of points to one of the things about wrestling. Wrestling is a huge, like one of the biggest points of one of the biggest parts of wrestling is humor. But it is hilarious when these guys, they're not trying to be funny. They're playing their characters to a T, and it can be so fucking hilarious. But it requires that tunnel vision of acting to pull it off.
Yeah.
And in the both in the ring and on the mic and all of that. And it's not these guys trying to be funny. And it takes years of experience and their dedication to the craft of what they're doing, but they develop a character that's based somewhat of an idea that is a part of them, and yeah, some hilarious shit develops. Ric Flair. Looking back on it, I never thought of Ric Flair and like Randy Macho Man Savage as hilarious. I just enjoyed watching them. But then I go back and I watch the shit that I'm like, oh my god, these guys are fucking hilarious.
Dude,
Ravishing Rick Rude, that's one I got into recently. The way that guy can get in the ring and be like, all right, so now what I want is for all you fat, ugly, stupid, pig-smelling swine, keep the noise down as I take my robe off and show these ladies something that is strictly, truly ravishing. Like, dude, the way he talks to the audience is fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh my god.
Especially Flair. I've been running a lot of the old World Championship wrestling shit of Flair, and just in the day when they just let him just sit on a mic and just say whatever the fuck he want, like that fool's like probably some of the best riffer comics that ever been. Like, and
it comes from a character that they fully are enveloped in, that they believe. Hawk from the Road Warriors.
Well,
too. Just the way some of the things he would say were just hilarious, and so I look at like a lot of the things that it's just the things that I end up kind of like looking back on, and like there's a lot that points to, and the same thing with acting and all that. It's like we're not, the more that you just kind of have a conviction of vision the trouble with stand up is like people are trying to be funny. I mean, they're trying hard to be funny, and they have no point of view. They have no perspective. They have no insight. It's just that's why I kind of it's one of the things that I've the Notebook. There are comics who can generate and write stuff in a notebook, and that's their process and all of that. But I look at like one of the big guys who that process works the best for is Jerry Seinfeld. What's his comedy all about? Nothing, because he's just farming for ideas that really don't mean anything to him. That's what his notebooks are these ideas. It's like, oh, let me just find, oh, there, here's this idea, and it's like you're just throwing everything at the wall. Whereas in the comics that I feel like they may write a thing down here or there, but it comes from some place of conviction and heart, and it's, you don't have to write those ideas down because those are genuine perspectives, and you can start from there and find your punchlines within that idea. So, because like some people are, well, I don't write things down. I don't have notebooks, and they're like, "Wow, that's crazy." And I'm like, "Not really." I mean, it's not the best writing process. I feel like it is good to write some. It's good to write some things down. I feel, because I'll forget every now and then. I'll forget, but for the most part, if what I look at is, and it was kind of the same way with music. If I have an idea that's strong, that's really an honest perspective, it ain't gonna go away, and it's gonna be sticking in my brain too. Like it's something that irritates me, or it's just something that I'll basically, with a lot of my bits, I'll be, if I find myself talking about something a lot with people, then it's kind of like, I should probably write a bit about this because they're getting annoyed with hearing me talk about it. So
yeah, no, and I think though, like it kind of even, I think some of the comics that aren't really in touch with being able to like find their character and getting lost with themselves, I think that even kind of touches to your earlier point though, as far as like they probably are afraid because of like, certain, like how you're saying, like you can have a great idea, but it's not going to matter because there's certain buzzwords, or you can just be a certain way that it's just going to rub people the wrong way regardless. And it's kind of hard. Like it does take that like period of having nothing to lose to really be able to figure out like how to call your shots. Cause like I've even had, I had a recent experience with something like that, to where at the Go Go Gong show, I had a joke, like, there's a whole setup behind it. It's a Greta Thunberg joke. And like the punchline is, someone should have told that girl before she sailed an ocean that the only thing that Donald Trump hates more than climate change is kids fresh off of a boat. And the crowd's laughing, but the judges immediately gong me like, get the fuck out of here. Cause like, they're like, how dare you kind of shit. And I was just like, hey man, like, I don't like, I understand why you're like, why that rubs you the wrong way, but it's like, it rubs you the wrong way because it's a real situation. And like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like all I'm doing is connecting the dots there. Whereas then I go tell that same joke to an audience in Pittsburgh at the 9 Quota Awards, audience just all black folks. Like I'm the only white dude there. They laughed their fucking asses off. So I was like, I don't know what the rules are, man. I'm just going to say whatever.
Every audience is different.
Yeah.
You will be surprised. And that's something that I've learned time and time again with different shows, is that you don't want to underestimate any audience. You don't want to pander, really. I mean, be yourself at every show that you can, because if anything, the audience will surprise you. I was trying to get gonged from the. I only took second at the one time I did a gong show. The first time I did it, I think Pete swooped up and was in like the last spot and stole it away from everybody. And all the judges were his disciples, but it was fine. But I got invited to do the Champion of Champions, the first one that they did 2 years ago, and so my whole goal was to get bounced out of it, because I was with my girl at the time, and I was like, I got to do this fucking show, and I'm not gonna win it, so there's no money in it, so I'm probably gonna fucking let me just try to get bounced out of it early. And we'll leave. And I think they hooked us up with a meal, all of us with a meal, because we were it was one of the cool nights where they hooked us up. So we got there, and then I was in the Champion of Champions. What they do is they have you go one-on-one competition with another person at random. So it was me and Faco. Faco is a favorite. He's a San Jose favorite, and all that. and I did my opening. I did a throat singing bit. I was doing bits that I was trying to get gonged with.
Yeah.
And not only did I not get gonged, but I ended up beating Flacco by 1 point. And so now I'm like, fuck. Okay, well obviously we'll stick around. I don't want to be. I'm not going to ditch this. And then I asked my girl, who's also, she was really awesome. She was not giving me any shit whatsoever, hanging out there and all that. And I said, well, you're the one who's here, and she at the time was like one of my bigger fans of my stand up, and just I said, what bit should I do? And she goes, I think you should do my favorite bit, and that's the suicide on Bart joke.
Yes.
And I was like, and it's 3 minutes, and the bit itself is upwards of 10 to 11 minutes. So I got to do like, what are the greatest hits of that bit?
Yeah.
Inside of 3 minutes. And so I'm wondering, and then I'm kind of second guessing, like, maybe I should do Beauty and the Beast, because the entire panel was women or transgender women. There was like one transgender and whatever. So I'm like, it's all women, and they're all poets, and they're all like, they're smart and all that shit. So maybe I should pander with the Beauty and the Beast bit. So I'm kind of going back and forth, and then I'm like, nope. What I realized also, I had the perfect spot. I had the Pete Munoz spot this time, because in the second round I had the very last spot. And no one did particularly well, which was kind of reassuring. And then so I was just like, all right, well, we'll just swing for the fences and see what happens. So I do the suicide on Bart bit, and it does pretty well. I felt it didn't do that great, but it did well enough. What got the big laugh was a tag that's only a tag in the joke. It's not by any means a finishing punchline, but it was a finishing one for San Jose. When I said that the extension, like the Bart extension to San Jose, is much, or this joke is a lot like the Bart extension into San Jose, and that I'll always be working on it, and it'll never be finished. And that got a huge laugh. And these judges, the thing I loved, I think I gave these judges, I gave them props for, they were hater judges, like the 3 women that were haters. Because when you had like the acts that the crowd loved, like music or like the poetry, here's exactly how it broke down. The crowd be like, yeah, all right, whatever. All right, let's go to the judges. All right, we got an 8, and we got a 5, and we've got a 6. Like, these judges were no fools for pandering, and that's what that's what I said. I gave them full credit that they were hater ass judges. And so when I did this bit, I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna get gonged, or they're getting low score. This is the first time I saw it of all of these people. It was 9, 8, and 9, and I'm like, oh shit, and I'm like, I fucking won. Like, I could already tell. I'm like, because none of the scores went that close.
Oh, like, wow.
Because all of them, even like if one had like I don't think anybody got a 9 from any of them. And the only ones when they got an 8, there would be like an 8, 4, and a 7, like that. It was that, brutal. And it was funny to watch too, because that was enjoyable, because it wasn't so predictable. And when you see I think a lot of that show has a lot to do with, like, if the judges aren't predictable, it's a fun thing to watch. Because but if the judges are predictable, yeah, not so much.
But that still very much goes to your point, as far as like, you just got to lose yourself and find the way to be your most authentic self while you're performing, because that just comes through regardless.
I hate being an Eminem cliche, but yes, you do need to lose yourself.
Oh yeah, fuck! I didn't. Yeah, I'm the white guy too, so I should have known better to pull that one out.
I just made mention of that song to someone else.
There's a lot of truth, unfortunately, too, because it's like he gets a lot of hate from us battle rap folks, but like all of us will agree that song had, like, that first little bit is like, yeah, like all of us have had that moment, but it's like.
He's probably one of the most incredible lyricists you ever fucking see. One of my favorite things about Eminem, we went, this was 2000 and, what year was it? Was it 17? Whatever the year was that he released that fucking
the kamikaze shit or whatever.
Yeah. Oh god. We listened to that whole thing in the car on a drive from we were going to do this show in this fucking remote hill town called Quincy, and so we did most of the drive the night before, and then parked and crashed in the car, and but we listened to that album, and I was sitting there just dying laughing. This is my favorite Eminem album in years because just I haven't been caught up on rap trends, and even I know how bad this is. It's him trying so hard to be a part of what he thinks is like the cool shit today. He's not being himself. He's working with these different producers and all that shit. And I was just dying. I'm like, oh my god, this is so bad. My buddy FC Sierra, he's a fan, and so yeah, it was really funny to listen to just a rapper in midlife crisis,
right? Someone that established themselves by being themselves, now pandering all the years later after success.
Yeah, he was pandering though to like the extreme, because I love Eminem's first album, still holds up. The Slim Shady LP was still it still holds up. But when I listened to the Marshall, I can't listen to the Marshall Mathers one because there was something about it where he was trying to fit in, even though he was still himself. But it had the whole tone of now he's like trying to fit in with Dre's circle of people. He's picking easy targets to pick on with words. It's all this shit that everybody gets all uptight about now, which pisses me off because I'm like, you guys are like 20 years fucking late. I'm sorry, and there's a lot of all this. It's funny when it's like you grow used and hardened to the world that you've been told that's like, this is the way it is, Dave. And now all these fucking kids are like, no, we want it differently. And now I'm the old man like, well, no, if I can't have it that way, you can't either. Like, I'm sorry. You guys want social justice? Well, tough shit. All right. No, cops are going to be killing people. I'm sorry. Sorry, gender equality is not going to exist. And, now men want to be women and women want to be men. Well, tough titty. You're just going to have to deal with people ridiculing you. All right? That's just how it is. And, but yeah, that's just, it's funny to be like that, a different type of old man. That's only wanting the old ways just so that they could feel the level of like, of
the devil,
and yeah, just the bullshit that because me being called some kind of, bitch, pussy, faggot, or whatever growing up, and then now having to see like, well, I think maybe it did these kids some good. I don't know. It's but it's.
I know, right? I think about that.
I want to see a world that does weed that shit out, and part of the, it's like I can't just get old and sit there and be like, no, these are bad words.
Yeah.
These are bad ideas. But it starts up here. And we need to be honest. One of the things I love about, there's a comedian, Mark Norman, who just put out his special on YouTube. And he's trying to point out in part of the special something that, and good comics that I like that are still like, that a lot of the woke wave of comedy is trying to, say list as problematic, and they're not. These are solid pros. Big J. Okerson had a bit around the same thing, is that just because we can politicize and try to like clean up our language and our attitudes doesn't absolve us from the thoughts. Like, we still have thoughts, and we still have bad, fucked up thoughts, and there's no shame in being able to present them in a way that with work and time and effort and care and your heart in the right place, they can be funny. And that's, we need to laugh at, because that's part of the connection that we have to each other. And I think a lot of it, we've lost a lot of sight of it in in this age of self-centeredness. It's just really, that's all I can boil it down to, is like, everybody's just so consumed with themselves on their phone and the technology and just everything. So.
Man, that was powerful, sir. I think that's an amazing way to wrap that up too. We are an hour deep too, man. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, nice. Thank you very much for coming on, sir. Is there anything you like to
Is
there anything you like promote or plug before we let you go?
Sure. I do. I make a YouTube show. Usually it's every week, but I make it at I picked it back up in the quarantine. And that's In the Meantime with Me and Dave. They're fun episodes, just like my own stupid, I guess, at-home quarantine talk show. It used to be like an old video suicide letter interview session with friends of mine, and then it turned into like a mock late-night talk show, and now it's sort of my own just entity that I just make and edit each week, and it's a lot of fun. I'll throw your shit on there too.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I'll definitely plug you on the socials and whatnot.
Yeah, and doing that, and then also we run a couple of Zoom shows, which I think we're going to still do through June, and that's every Thursday. Me and Nina G run a show called Comedians Show and Tell, where we have comics come on and bring an item and we do show and tell, and it's not like a hardcore trying to be funny show, but there's humor that develops from just talking about stuff, again, kind of just stuff from the heart type of thing, possessions and whatnot. And then every Thursday, our live Zoom podcast, another terrible podcast by Comics in Isolation with me and Erie Diamond. And that's basically a live comedy show. It's a live podcast, so we have an audience, and we do our podcast with comedian guests and stuff. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna definitely check out that show and tell show. I really like that idea. That's a great way to because one of the deterrents for me, like I haven't really checked out a Zoom comedy show because I've seen clips from some people where it's like they're trying to do a regular open mic on a Zoom. And
they can be all right.
They can be all right, but
I'm not. Saul Trujillo, my friend and comedian, put it best. He said they are the vape pen of comedy.
Oh my
God! I agree. He's dead right. I've done them. I only got introduced to him through one show that made me a believer in, like, this isn't stand up. But it has potential to do something for the time being.
Yeah, because I can definitely see like the old show on Showtime, The Green Room kind of a thing, just with Zoom. Yeah. Like and so it's like if it's just people,
that, actually.
Yeah.
The Cellar, the Comedy Cellar, does something like that, and I think there's a lot of manners that, like, we have all kinds of means to, like, occupy our comedic minds with techno. Because I one of the things I posted after the initial, when all these people were talking shit about, I'm not doing a Zoom show or whatever. It's like, you motherfuckers have been making unwatchable content for the entire 10 years. I can't think of an idea to, like, get behind in the quarantine. You fucking morons! Like, think about it. Make your fucking awful sketches. Do something creative with that you think everybody's gonna want to watch. And I mean, we've all been doing it, and so it's like, what's so difficult about? So that's why it's funny to see who adapts to, like, the Zoom medium. There's and a lot of holdouts, even once they have a window into it, and you just got to have fun with it. Even if you're just doing your stand-up set, just have fun with it. Do something different, whatever. And it's fun. It's not. It's the difference between playing a video game and doing the shit for real, but it's so it is very much stand up the video game. That's kind of how I see it.
Stand up the video game. Oh man, that was fantastic. But yeah, once again, thank you, man. This is a very great conversation. Dude. Like I said, I'm not the most outgoing person in person, so I don't, like, when I'm at shows, I'm not trying to, like.
Me, man. No, yeah, you've always been really cool, man. I've only, like, think I ran into you a couple times consciously, but you've always been really cool, and yeah, keep at it with the stand up, man.
Yeah, man. Fucking, I hope you do too, man. And make sure you guys go follow me and Dave, man. At this point. Fuck yeah, man. You be safe out there. Have a good one, sir.
You too, man.
Bang, bang. Bang on the motherfucking gang. Yo, how is it just me, or is that like one of the most poignant episodes we've had so far? Is this been a great episode to me, or is that can y'all agree, or am I just stroking my own? Am I blowing my own horn here? Whatever. That was amazing. I really enjoyed myself, dude. That was a really great, like, yeah. Mean Dave's a great dude. You guys make sure you go follow him. Like you said, in the meantime with Dave, in the meantime with me and Dave, right here on YouTube as well. Was it the Comedian Live Show and Tell? I think that's a Zoom show. But yeah, if you type in Mean Dave on the socials, he's a pretty easy find. Go follow the boy. He's a very I love his brand of comedy, man. Him and I definitely have the I feel very relatable in the sense of what our motivations are to perform, you know, in the sense of just finding your most authentic self, putting that forward. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, man. This has kind of been one of the first times I've done like a midday show where it's just talking and not doing a thing, and it kind of turned out better than me like watching some things. So like I said, we were going to do Keegan tonight. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen tonight. We're going to reschedule for next weekend, so he's going to be on next weekend. But what's today? Today's Saturday. Tomorrow, Sunday night, Behind the Bots, it's going to be me, Dan, special guest Ryne, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to break down the whole battle of the Zay2 card. And, yeah, be safe. Wash your hands. go spread some joy to somebody today.